I'm Steve Wilkerson, and I'm with Jim Saunders, Executive Editor of the News Service of Florida. Jim, trial lawyer John Morgan, the major financial force and other force behind a proposed constitutional amendment to legalize the use of marijuana for medical purposes, for specific medical purposes, looks to be kind of on the cusp of getting that amendment onto the 2016 ballot for a second time. It didn't pass the first time. Let's discuss that. What's going on?
Well, there's two major steps that constitutional amendments have to pass to get on the ballot. One of which is they have to be approved, the wording of the amendments has to be approved by the Supreme Court. Then they have to get a required number of signatures, which is this year's 683,000 signatures. There was an interesting development this week in that Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's been a big opponent of the medical marijuana initiative, she fought it in 2014 and she doesn't support it this year, but she announced that she's not going to contest the Morgan Amendment at the Florida Supreme Court. So the Florida Supreme Court has scheduled a hearing in December 8th, to figure out whether the wording of that amendment is adequate to go on the ballot. Essentially, they're looking to make sure it's clear to voters. But Attorney General Bondi says she's not even going to contest it. That sort of gives almost a free pass to the Morgan committee that's working on this. And it looks like it's going to get over that hurdle unless there's something totally unexpected.
She fought it before, right? And why isn't she fighting it now?
Before the 2014 amendment went on the ballot, she did fight it, and she argued that the wording of the proposed amendment for that year was unclear, did not meet the legal requirements to go before voters. Morgan's side prevailed in that, but it was I believe it was a 4-3 vote on the Supreme Court, very close. So they went on the ballot in 2014. Morgan's effort barely lost. They got 58% of the vote. They needed 60%. So they're bringing it back for 2016. But with the objections that were in mind at the Supreme Court from the last time, Morgan's team has tweaked the language to try to address some of those concerns. So Attorney General Bondi basically said this week, she didn't support it the last time, but the Supreme Court signed off on it. Now the Morgan team has improved the wording to try to tighten up some of those concerns that she had the last time. And essentially she was saying, why should I fight this at the Supreme Court if it's going to get approved by the Supreme Court? Again, that doesn't mean she supports the amendment, but it does mean that she's not going to contest the wording of the amendment.
Well, it looks like there'll be the signatures.
Well, that's
required,
that's the next step. I mean, the next thing that the Morgan Group has to comply with. They have to have 683,000 valid signatures by February 1st. Right now, they're at about 350,000 that have been submitted to the state, roughly. But it has been growing exponentially. And Morgan has also shown that he is willing to put in a ton of cash to go out and gather these signatures. I mean, it's not people just standing in front of Publix, volunteers collecting these signatures. They pay signature gatherers to get out there, and it costs a lot of money. But, Morgan this year, in the past 6 months, I believe it is, has put $1.8 million from his law firm into this effort. So he is showing no signs of backing up. And if they continue at this pace of collecting signatures and submitting them, and they get the Supreme Court approval, as appears is going to happen, it looks like they're going to be on the 2016 ballot. And like I said before, they got 58% of the vote last time. To pass a constitutional amendment, you need 60%. So that's not a lot of ground to make up. And they are expecting that in a presidential election year, there'll be a larger turnout of Democratic voters and probably younger voters, and that can push them over that 60% threshold.